Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy So, and welcome back to another Heat playoff post-game recap. This is presented to you by Empire Boutique. You can go right now to their Instagram and order your City of Champions shirt like this one right here. And the Heat lose game 3 tonight, 109-94 on their home floor. And man, it was a rough game from the beginning. It was a rough game from the beginning for me because I felt like the Heat really did a good job of coming out with some type of energy. Bam was aggressive. Jimmy was aggressive in trying to get to the paint. But in that same respect, the Nuggets got off to a real quick start. Jamal Murray had 8 points in the first quarter. And the Heat's offense was just struggling. There was a moment there with about 6 minutes left, or in that span, that the Heat had missed 8 straight shots in the first quarter. And the tail of the tape, or the tail of the game, right, was definitely this stat right here. The Denver Nuggets had 20 points in the paint when it came to the first quarter, and it showed that they were actively trying to score in the paint repeatedly and often early in the game. And they really took a toll on the Heat because we couldn't match their intensity in the paint. We couldn't match the physicality for whatever reason. Even though Jimmy had scored 6 of the last 8 points in that quarter to tie the game at 24, it still wasn't enough because it didn't really feel like the Heat were taking control of the game, right? And then we have some good plays that happen in the first half, right? And then in the second quarter, we get the one highlight from Bam, right, where you see him here follow up Caleb Martin's miss and go up for the dunk. And it kind of brought the crowd back to its feet. And I felt like at that point it could have been a momentum shift, right? And it didn't really give the Heat the rest of the spark that they were looking for. You had Gabe pick up 2 quick fouls with about 9 minutes left, help Denver get into the bonus early into the game, into the second quarter. Murray hit 2 big threes back to back. Caleb hit 2 big threes back to back to kind of give us the lead back. But then, Denver started to just separate. Even though Bam had that big dunk that I showed you guys, we couldn't really get anything else going offensively. And it seemed like every time we got to the paint, we were looking for ways to get out of the paint, whether it would be a pass or completing the drive outside the paint. It didn't look like we were trying to go up and be aggressive with it. And for me, that's something that, it kills us. It kills our momentum. And at halftime, it was 53-48 for Denver. And at that point, Denver was shooting the ball, very well. They were shooting 47% from the field. The Heat were struggling. Like I said, 39%. You had Jimmy Butler going 6 of 16 early on in the first half. Bam was 5 of 12. And nobody else that, is not named Jimmy or Bam really stepped up today. Kevin Love had opportunities. Vincent had opportunities. Strus had opportunities. And, Duncan, you name it. Anybody coming off the bench. And we just couldn't get it rolling. At that point, we were 5 of 14 from the three-point line, kind of keeping us in it. But Denver was being way more effective. They were out-rebounding us, right? They had more assists than us in the first half. It was 16-9. And even though that was mostly made up of Jamal Murray and Djokovic, like we still didn't do enough defensively, and that shit was showing quick and often. And in that second quarter, they really exploded when it came to points in the paint. They ended up the first half with 30 points in the paint. 20 of them were between Murray and Joker. And when you're giving up that many points in the paint to a team like that, to a team full of size like that, right, just shows that maybe you're not committed to defending as much as you really think that you are. Now, we have to give credit to our players as well, right? Bam had a double-double at halftime. He had 10 rebounds, including 2 offensive rebounds. But like I said, the rest of the team wasn't really offering anything. Zeller came in, really didn't provide anything of a spark, not even defensively. And, we just couldn't put together a good stretch. And meanwhile, Denver was finding ways to put together good stretches. Denver came out in the third quarter pretty strong. They were hurting us a lot with scoring in the paint, but a lot of them had to do with getting assists in the paint, right? Where somebody was driving and it was a quick bounce pass, or, somebody's at the top of the key looking to make an entry pass off the pick and roll. And it was really hurting us, man. They even had a one possession where they got 3 offensive rebounds in a row to get a shot back. And those things are debilitating for the Heat, because usually when we win that battle, we have a better chance of winning the game. When we don't win that battle, it becomes harder, increasingly harder for the Heat to kind of impose their will. I've said it once. I've said it a bunch of times on the podcast and on the recap. The Heat's offense is really based off how good their defense can be, because if they're able to get the ball off a rebound, push the pace, right? We know that Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, these guys can find the pace when it comes off of misses. But in order to do that, you need to grab the rebound and continue to push the pace on Denver and get into positions where you get mismatches on certain players, or you get somebody stuck in the paint, right? You get Jimmy on one-on-one with a smaller guard, or Bam with a guard on him, right? Where we can take advantage of that. And there weren't enough opportunities in that game. The Heat shooting went cold in that third quarter, and Denver, for all accounts, they couldn't fucking miss. They were getting every single bounce their way. Joker's touch around the paint continues to baffle me, right? The shots look like he's not going to make them because he's shooting them off of 1 foot while leaning back, or he's in an awkward position. But this dude was finding ways to make his shots. He shot 8 of 20 in that third quarter. There was multiple possessions in a row where they had just clunky offense, right? Where the ball wasn't rotating, and not enough guys were getting, into their spots, and we ultimately were forcing ourselves to shoot with the shot clock winding down, right? Where there's 7 seconds left, 5, 4, and there were 10 seconds, and we're getting bad possessions back to back to back. At that point, Denver had increased the lead to 14. It was 82-68 by the end of the third quarter. And then the Heat just started to foul early and often in the fourth quarter, helped Denver get into the bonus really early. And, they took advantage of that. They were able to draw fouls and get to the free throw line to kind of just stop the clock, kill the momentum that the Heat will build off of getting a good defensive stop, or, making a big shot. Joker really hurt us tonight. He had 30, 20, and 10. Became the first player, that's not what the numbers that he ended up with, but he becomes the first player in NBA Finals history to have a 30-point, 20-plus rebound, and 10 assist game in the NBA Finals. Official numbers for him were 32 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists, 3 offensive rebounds with 2 blocks. Between him and Murray, who also had a 30-point triple-double, first time in the NBA Finals that happens as well. Those guys were, 24 of 43? Talk about efficiency and getting to spots where they were comfortable. Those guys couldn't miss in the areas, especially Murray. Murray got a lot of good looks near the basket. He wasn't really reliant on the three-point shooting tonight. Denver as a whole wasn't really relying on the three-point shooting tonight. They only attempted 18 shots, and they were 5 of 18. The Heat, on the other hand, put up 35 shots and were 11 of 35. 30%, you think that's pretty average, but for this Heat team, we know that it needs to be closer to 40%, if not above 40%, in order for us to really be a threat and challenge teams to defend us on the outside. It just didn't happen, Besides Jimmy and Bam, we only had one other player reach double figures, which was Caleb Martin. Played okay by his standards, I guess. 4 of 9 in 32 minutes for 10 points. Just not enough, like I said, and it's not like guys didn't get minutes. Gabe played 32 minutes. Strus played 24. Duncan with 14 minutes. Kevin Love has 60 minutes. And none of these guys really provided anything. Strus and Vincent really struggled this game. Kind of, got punched in the stomach, and whatever it was defensively that took him out of rhythm really hurt him. They were 3 of 17 combined, including 2 of 10 from 3 for 10 points between both of them. It's not something that we're accustomed to seeing, and them themselves will probably admit, right, that they were a little bit taken aback from that defense that Denver was playing. I don't have a lot of highlights to show you guys, but, one of the ones that I want to show you was this one right here, where there was a lot of ball movement. And this was one of the plays where I was like, man, why can't we do this more often? You see Bam, being in the right position, staying in the paint, and us attacking the paint. And once we attack the paint, we force Denver's defense to kind of step up, and it leaves the rim wide open. When we don't do that, they tend to stay home, and it makes it harder for somebody to put up a shot and put up a layup. After the game, the one thing that kind of struck me was Jimmy saying in the post game press that, if he gets 2 feet in the paint, he has to go up with it and has to do a better job of scoring. That's kind of what we've been begging for him in these first 3 games, right? Because we've seen him penetrate Denver's defense early and often throughout a game, but we haven't seen him go up too many times when he's at the rim or close to getting to the rim. It started to work towards the end of the fourth quarter. There was a point where we got it down to 9 after a Duncan 3. But then again, we break down on defense. We can't get a rebound. We're making fouls, and we're making it easier for Denver to close us out at home, and they did. This was the 4th straight road win for Denver, our 3rd straight loss at home, which is a very frightening thing to look at, right? When you look at it ahead at a game 4, and you're like, well, we got to win this game no matter what. That means you're gonna have to break a losing streak at home, right? Coach Spo, after the game, he mentioned that they lost a lot of the physical battles for those 50-50 plays, and that shit rang very true. You look at the team stats, the thing that stands out the most to me, right, as I pull it up here, was number 1, the assist. The assists were 28-20, and you think, well, 8 assists is not a lot. Yeah, but a lot of that came in those first 3 quarters, which allowed Denver to really get the ball moving and get guys involved. Not too much, but Joker and Murray were definitely feeding off each other off their pick and roll. Another thing that stood out to me was the rebounding disparity, 58-33. That's 25. Difference there as far as rebounding goes. Offensive rebound, we were close. It was 13-10 with Denver holding that edge, but defensively, man, Denver got a lot of those rebounds because the Heat were just missing shots, and it came down to that. When you shoot 37% as a team, right? I mean, you put up 92 shots. That's not a recipe for success in any shape or form in any basketball realm, right? So the Heat definitely know that they have to improve that, and they're going to have to improve that quickly. Spo saying that we got pummeled in the paint rang very true for me, because you look at the points in the paint, and Denver has 60, the Heat had 34. And that's because, again, Denver made a concentrated effort early and often in the game to not only attempt shots in the paint, but finish shots in the paint. And that's something that the Heat couldn't do. Hell, we missed a couple of easy layups between Jimmy, Kyle Lowry, Bam, things that normally go in for us, and we couldn't get them to drop for whatever reason. But yeah, it's a tough loss to take at home, right? Because you kind of wanted to ride the momentum of winning game 2, taking home court advantage from Denver and trying to apply it down here. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that tonight. But looking forward to game 4, I think that there are a lot of things that you can point to and say, all right, the Heat are definitely going to do better at this. The Heat are definitely going to do better at that. The Heat are definitely going to do better at this. One of the main things that the Heat have to do a better job at is defending Murray. It's okay for Joker to go off and have those type of games because he's really the MVP of the league and probably the best player on the court. But we do have to limit Murray in his scoring, right, and his ability to find other teammates and shut down the pick and roll. There were a lot of times, in my opinion, where Bam was kind of anticipating the pick and roll and just staying on Murray a little bit too long instead of forcing a change and trying to get back to Joker, or at least feinting that you're going to get back to Joker and fake out them and throw off their rhythm or their timing. But we couldn't do that. Couldn't throw off Denver's timing. Our defense was not there tonight. Bam and Jimmy both took accountability for it, which is what we expect from our leaders. But we need to see some type of results in this next game. Obviously, it's a must-win game for the Heat. Early line suggest that they're a 3.5 underdog. I don't know. Everybody picked the Heat to win this game, and I kind of felt like, damn, that's the reverse curse, right? Like normally the national media kind of shies away from us. I'm sure that for this next game, everybody will be picking Denver, which might work in our favor. But the Heat themselves, they have to do a little bit of soul searching here, right? And say, how bad do we want it? How bad are we willing to defend Joker and Murray play after play after play after play, whether they're successful or not, back to back to back or not, it doesn't matter. You got to find a way to get those guys out of their rhythm and just let one of those guys, especially let it be Joker, beat you. You can't let those guys combine for over 60 points tonight like they did. I think it was 66 between the both of them. And expect to win. And even though we did shut down the rest of their guys, right? They didn't really have nobody else in double figures. Christian Brown, he had a hell of a game for them. Played well coming off the bench. But yeah, what did he end up with? 7 of 8 with 15 points. Other than that, nobody else had, even 10 points. Aaron Gordon had 11 points. So it wasn't a big team output. It was, we couldn't stop Joker and we couldn't stop Murray. And when you get those guys rolling, like I said, just makes it easier for them to have more smaller contributions from the rest of the team and still find a way to win. Usually that's what the Heat do, right? We rely on our two guys like Jimmy and Bam, like they did tonight. We had 50 points between them, but nobody else stepped up. Caleb Martin, like I said, was the only guy in double figures for the Heat. And when you play 24 minutes like Strus did and only had 3 points, you play 32 minutes like Gabe Vincent did and you only had 7 points, you know that you missed an opportunity, and that's what was lacking. We couldn't make shots, and that shit killed us tonight. Killed us. Because even a little bit closer to 50% as a team, out of 92 shots, hell, you think you're talking about 6 to 7 baskets there. Maybe that makes a difference in the game. Maybe it doesn't, but you got to put yourself in a position to have the best outcome for yourself as possible. But it's time to look forward to Game 4, Friday night at 8:30. A packed house. Shout out to everybody who was there tonight. You guys did raise the roof and kept it loud for the most part. Just tough to see when your team is down 21 points in the fourth quarter. It's tough to see. But we're going to get that bounce back victory on Game 4. Your boy Soso is calling it right here. And then, of course, we'll be here after Game 4 to bring you the post-game recap. Hopefully, we'll have our special guest on. He had a prior engagement tonight, so he had to cancel, which is all good. But we're going to continue to bring you this exciting post-game recap all the way throughout the Heat's run in the finals. And like I said earlier, it's presented to you by Empire Boutique. That's where you can get your City of Champions shirt like this one right here. It has the cool Parks and Rec logo on the back. And yeah, tell him Soso sent you, man. And Steve's a good dude out there in Miami Springs. He's holding it down. This is where we tell you guys to tell a Heat fan, to tell another Heat fan, to tell another Heat fan about this amazing post-game recap that we're bringing you for this playoff run. And until next time, it's your boy So.